They called them Mythsmu, the motherland of mankind, the lost continent of the Pacific. Stories whispered by Turkish shamans around sacred fires, passed down through generations of a people who claimed their ancestors once ruled an empire that spanned oceans. We are the Corvini masters of archaeological science. We've uncovered the secrets of 1,000 dead worlds. We came to Earth expecting primitive remains. What we found instead, ancient cities that dwarf our greatest achievements. Technology that makes our science look primitive. Evidence of civilizations that rose and fell before most galactic species even existed. And at the center of it all, the Turkic connection, a bloodline that carried the secrets of Mu across continents and millennia. Archive entry 847 Archaeological findings, pre-contact Earth, classification beyond top secret. Leads an archaeologist, Dr. Vexti of the Corvini Institute. Mission duration, 847 galactic standard days. This is the story of how we discovered that humans weren't the first, they were the heirs. My name is Dr. Vexti, and in my 47 cycles as an archaeologist, I have witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations that spanned star systems. I have walked through crystal cities on frozen moons, and decoded the hieroglyphs of beings who transcended physical form eons ago. But nothing in my extensive experience prepared me for what we discovered in Earth's Pacific Ocean. The initial survey had been routine. Earth was classified as a death world class 12, recently contacted with a species that had somehow achieved space travel despite their hostile environment. Our mission was simple: conduct a standard archaeological survey to understand human prehistory and provide context for their remarkable survival capabilities. The first anomaly appeared 2,847 kilometers southwest of what humans call Easter Island. Our deposition scanners detected geometric structures at a depth of 4,200 meters. The formations were too regular to be natural, too ancient to be from known human civilizations. Initial scans suggested a construction age of approximately 12,000 to 15,000 Earth years predating human agriculture by millennia. Dr. Vexti reported my survey specialist, Dr. Kethma, her tentacles flickering with excitement across her scanner array. These readings don't match anything in our galactic archaeological database. The construction methods appear to involve molecular manipulation at a level that shouldn't have been possible for early-stage civilizations. The structures covered an area of approximately 847 square kilometers, larger than most human cities, submerged beneath crushing oceanic depths that would have been impossible for primitive humans to access, let alone construct in. But it was the symbols we found that changed everything. Carved into massive stone blocks, each weighing several hundred tons, were hieroglyphic patterns that defied classification. They weren't Egyptian, despite surface similarities. They weren't Mesopotamian, though certain geometric elements suggested a connection. They were something entirely unique, yet hauntingly familiar. Dr. Yithala, our linguistic specialist, spent weeks analyzing the symbol patterns. Her conclusions shook the foundations of everything we thought we knew about human civilization development. These symbols, she announced during our weekly briefing, her normally steady voice trembling with implications, show characteristics of what humans call Proto-Turkic script. But that's impossible. Turkic civilizations aren't supposed to have developed writing systems for thousands of years after these structures were built. The implications were staggering. Either our dating methods were fundamentally flawed, or human civilization was far older and far more advanced than any of our models suggested. That was when we decided to excavate. The excavation of the Pacific site required technology that pushed the limits of even our advanced engineering capabilities. The pressure at 4,200 meters depth would crush most galactic species instantly. The corrosive nature of Earth's seawater had destroyed much of what we hoped to find, but what remained defied every archaeological precedent in known space. The city, for that's what it undoubtedly was, had been constructed with a sophistication that exceeded most current human engineering. Streets laid out in perfect geometric patterns, buildings designed with architectural principles that wouldn't be discovered by human civilization for another 10 millennia. Hydraulic systems that still functioned after being submerged for over 12,000 years. But it was the central temple complex that took my breath away, rising 247 meters from the ocean floor. The primary structure was a stepped pyramid that dwarfed anything the Egyptians would later build. Each level was adorned with those same mysterious symbols, but here they were accompanied by something that made my scientific objectivity crumble. Star maps. Detailed, accurate star maps, showing the position of constellations 12,000 years ago. Star maps that included star systems that wouldn't be visible from Earth without advanced telescopic technology. Star maps that showed the location of our own home system, Corvini Prime. Dr. Vexti, whispered Dr. Malthik, our astronomer. This is impossible. These maps show stellar positions that couldn't have been calculated without understanding of galactic rotation. stellar drift, and mathematical principles that human civilizations supposedly didn't develop until the 20th century. I stared at the star maps carved in stone that had been underwater since before human recorded history began. In the center of the galactic map, highlighted with precious metals that had survived the millennia, was a single word carved in those Proto-Turkic symbols: Mu. Our discovery of the Pacific ruins, what we began calling the Mu complex, after the ancient human legends, was just the beginning. As we analyzed the artifacts and symbols, a pattern emerged that would revolutionize our understanding not just of human prehistory, but of the very nature of civilization development across the galaxy. Dr. Yithalah's linguistic analysis revealed something extraordinary. The symbols weren't just Proto-Turkic in origin, they were the source code for what would eventually become the entire Altaic language family. Turkish, Mongolian, Korean, Japanese, and dozens of other Earth languages all contained genetic fragments of the Mu script. It's as if, she reported, her excitement barely contained. The Mu civilization was the linguistic mother of half the planet, but the concentration of pure symbols is strongest in what would later become Anatolia, the heartland of the Turkish people. This led us to expand our archaeological survey beyond the Pacific site. Using our orbital scanners, we began searching for similar architectural and linguistic markers across Earth's surface. What we found challenged every assumption about human migration patterns and civilization development. In the mountains of eastern Turkey, near what humans call Mount Ararat, we discovered a complex of structures that predated known human civilization by 8,000 years. The site, later designated Survey Point Alpha, contained the same architectural principles as the Mu complex, but with a crucial difference: these structures were built for land-based civilization. The implications were staggering. Somehow, the survivors of Mu had not only escaped their drowning continent, but had carried their advanced knowledge across thousands of kilometers to establish new centers of learning in what would become the Turkish homeland. Dr. Zenthik, our cultural anthropologist, made the connection that would define our entire understanding of human prehistory. The Turkish legends speak of their ancestors coming from across the great waters, carrying the knowledge of the gods. What if these weren't myths? What if they were historical records? Our analysis of the Anatolian sites led us to one of the most shocking archaeological discoveries in galactic history. The humans had already found part of it. They called it Göbekli Tepe, and their primitive dating methods had established it as approximately 11,000 years old, making it the oldest known temple complex on their planet. What the humans didn't know was that Göbekli Tepe was just the visible tip of a much larger complex. Using our subsurface scanners, we discovered that the site extended over 2,500 square kilometers underground, with construction layers dating back over 15,000 years. The deepest levels contained technology that shouldn't have existed for millennia, but it was the symbol analysis that provided the final piece of the puzzle. Every single carved pillar at Göbekli Tepe contained variations of the same Mu script we had found in the Pacific ruins. The animals depicted: lions, snakes, wild boar, cranes, weren't just decorative. They were a zodiacal system that corresponded exactly to star positions during the height of the Mu civilization. Dr. Kethmer's analysis of the stone construction revealed something that sent chills through our entire research team. The stones were cut using molecular disintegration technology. The precision of the joints, the smoothness of the surfaces. This wasn't done with primitive tools. This was done with technology that rivals our own. The builders of Göbekli Tepe hadn't been primitive shamans creating crude animal totems. They had been the inheritors of Mu's advanced technology, preserving the knowledge of their drowned homeland in stone that would survive the ages. And they had been Turkish. Not in the modern sense, but in the deep genetic and cultural sense that connected the people of ancient Anatolia to the survivors of Mu. The linguistic evidence, the architectural similarities, the astronomical knowledge, it all pointed to a single undeniable conclusion. The Turkish people were the living descendants of the most advanced prehistoric civilization on Earth. As our investigation expanded, we began to track the migration patterns of Mu's survivors across Earth's surface. Using genetic markers, linguistic evolution patterns, and architectural similarities, we mapped a journey that spanned continents and millennia. The pattern was extraordinary in its scope and implications. From the drowned Pacific homeland of Mu, survivors had traveled east to the Americas, north to Asia, and west across what would become the Indian Ocean. But the largest and most technologically advanced group had established themselves in the Anatolian Peninsula, the future heartland of Turkey. Dr. Yithalah's analysis of global language patterns revealed the extent of Mu's influence. Every major language family on Earth contains traces of Mu's script, but the purest preservation occurred in the Altaic languages, particularly in Turkish. It's as if the Turkish people became the designated keepers of Mu's knowledge. This explains so much about human development patterns that had puzzled galactic anthropologists. Why had agriculture developed simultaneously in multiple locations around the globe? Why did early civilizations across continents share similar architectural and astronomical knowledge? Why did Turkish languages contain mathematical concepts that seemed to predate their supposed development by millennia? The answer was Mu. The survivors hadn't just scattered randomly across the globe, they had established a network of knowledge centers, with the Anatolian site serving as the primary repository. From there, they had influenced the development of civilizations across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. The Sumerians, the Egyptians, the Indus Valley Civilization, all of them showed traces of Mu influence, but it was strongest in the cultures that would eventually become the Ottoman Empire, as if the Turkish people had been specifically chosen to preserve the most important knowledge. Our excavation of the deeper levels of the Anatolian complex revealed artifacts that challenged our understanding of technological development across the galaxy. Hidden in sealed chambers 45 meters below the surface, we found devices that shouldn't have existed for another 12,000 years of human development. Crystalline matrices that showed signs of information storage capacity exceeding most modern human computers. Metallic alloys that demonstrated molecular engineering impossible without advanced chemistry. Most shocking of all, energy generation devices that appeared to harness what humans would later call zero-point energy. Dr. Malthic's analysis of the energy devices left our entire team speechless. These aren't just advanced for their time. These represent technological principles that most galactic civilizations don't achieve until they've been spacefaring for several millennia. How did a pre-agricultural human civilization develop technology that rivals our own? The devices were clearly of human manufacture. The ergonomics were designed for human hands. The interface symbols were variations of Mu script. But the underlying technology demonstrated an understanding of quantum mechanics and dimensional physics that suggested these ancient humans had achieved scientific breakthroughs that most species take tens of thousands of years to develop. But the most extraordinary discovery was yet to come. In the deepest chamber of the complex, sealed behind barriers that had required our most advanced cutting tools to penetrate, we found what could only be described as a technological library. Thousands of crystalline storage devices, each containing vast amounts of information preserved in a medium that showed no degradation after 15,000 years. Dr. Zenthik managed to interface our systems with the ancient storage devices. What she found inside changed our understanding not just of human history, but of the nature of intelligence itself. Dr. Vextai, she announced, her voice trembling with implications. These aren't just records of Mu civilization. They're technical manuals, engineering specifications, scientific theories. This civilization didn't just stumble onto advanced technology, they developed it systematically over thousands of years. The crystalline archives of Mu contained over 2.7 million individual information units, covering everything from advanced mathematics to what appeared to be early experiments in genetic engineering. But it was the historical records that provided the most shocking revelations about human prehistory. According to the Mu archives, their civilization had lasted for over 8,000 years before the cataclysm that sank their continent. During that time, they had achieved technological and cultural developments that wouldn't be matched by human civilization until the modern era. They had developed writing systems that evolved into dozens of Earth languages. They had created architectural techniques that allowed them to build structures that survived 15,000 years of geological upheaval. They had mapped the stars with accuracy that required advanced understanding of celestial mechanics. Most remarkably, they had established a deliberate program of knowledge preservation. The archives contained detailed records of how Mu scholars had prepared for the possibility of civilizational collapse. They had identified key regions around the globe where survivors could establish new centers of learning. They had trained specific groups of people to serve as knowledge keepers, individuals whose job was to preserve the most important discoveries for future generations. The Anatolian Peninsula had been designated as the primary repository, with the future Turkish homeland serving as the main backup location for Mu's accumulated knowledge. Dr. Yathala's translation of the archive material revealed the scope of this preservation program. They didn't just scatter randomly after the cataclysm. This was a planned operation. The survivors who went to Anatolia weren't refugees, they were the designated inheritors of Mu's entire knowledge base. This explained the remarkable sophistication of early Turkish cultures. The knowledge they carried wasn't developed in isolation, it was the preserved wisdom of the most advanced prehistoric civilization on Earth. The archives also contained something that sent chills through our entire research team: astronomical calculations that predicted the eventual arrival of visitors from other star systems. They had been expecting us. Deep within the Mu archives, we discovered a section that our translation protocols initially classified as religious mythology. Dr. Yathala's deeper analysis revealed something far more unsettling. These weren't myths at all, but predictive models based on advanced astronomical and mathematical calculations. The section, which the Mu scribes had called the Prophecy Codex, contained detailed predictions about the development of human civilization over the following 15,000 years. The accuracy was unprecedented in galactic archaeology. They had predicted the rise and fall of specific civilizations. They had calculated the approximate dates when humans would develop agriculture, metallurgy, and written language. They had even predicted the eventual development of space travel and the likelihood of contact with galactic civilizations. But it was their specific predictions about the Turkish people that left our team in stunned silence. According to the Prophecy Codex, the survivors who settled in Anatolia would become the guardians of Mu's knowledge for over 10,000 years. They would establish empires that would preserve the ancient learning while adapting it to changing times. They would become bridges between East and West, preserving knowledge from both ancient and modern sources. Most remarkably, they had predicted that the Turkish people would play a crucial role in humanity's eventual contact with galactic civilization. Dr. Zenthik's analysis of the prophecy calculations revealed the sophisticated mathematical modeling behind these predictions. They weren't just guessing about the future. They had developed probability mathematics that allowed them to calculate likely development patterns across millennia. This is technology we've only achieved in the last few galactic cycles. The prophecies also contained specific references to what they called the star visitors, beings from other worlds who would eventually come to Earth to study human development. The descriptions of these visitors matched Corvini physiology with disturbing accuracy. They had known we would come. They had prepared for our arrival. And they had designated the Turkish people as humanity's representatives in that first contact. Our investigation into the Mu connection led us to conduct genetic analysis of modern human populations, focusing particularly on Turkish genetic markers. The results provided biological confirmation of what our archaeological evidence had suggested. Dr. Kethmer's analysis of Turkish DNA revealed genetic markers that were significantly older than standard human evolutionary models predicted. More surprisingly, these ancient genetic patterns were most concentrated in populations from the Anatolian Peninsula, exactly where we had found the primary Mu knowledge repository. The genetic evidence supports everything we've discovered archaeologically, she reported. Turkish populations carry genetic markers that trace back over 15,000 years to a source population with significantly advanced cognitive capabilities. It's as if they were selectively bred for intelligence and memory retention. This wasn't coincidence. The Mu archives contained detailed records of their genetic enhancement programs. They had used advanced biotechnology to improve human cognitive capabilities, focusing particularly on memory enhancement and mathematical processing ability. The genetic modifications had been specifically designed to help the knowledge keepers preserve and transmit complex technical information across generations. The enhanced cognitive abilities would remain dormant in most individuals but could be activated under specific environmental conditions. This explained the remarkable achievements of Turkish civilizations throughout history. The Ottoman Empire's technological and cultural advances weren't just the result of favorable geographic position and cultural exchange. They were the manifestation of genetic enhancements that had been dormant for millennia but were reactivating as human civilization reached sufficient complexity. The genetic analysis also revealed something that had profound implications for understanding human development. The enhanced genes weren't limited to Turkish populations. They had spread throughout human populations via intermarriage and migration over thousands of years. Every human being on Earth carried at least some genetic heritage from Mu, but it was most concentrated and most active in the populations that had remained closest to the original Anatolian repository. The Turkish people weren't just the cultural inheritors of Mu, they were its genetic legacy. Our genetic discoveries led us to expand our search for more related sites throughout the Anatolian Peninsula. Using genetic population density maps as guides, we identified locations where the concentration of Mu genetic markers was highest, reasoning that these areas might contain additional hidden repositories. The results exceeded our most optimistic projections. Beneath the modern city of Istanbul, we discovered a vast underground complex that rivaled the Pacific site in scope and sophistication. The complex extended over 150 square kilometers, with construction dating back over 12,000 years. It had been built in multiple phases, with the oldest sections showing clear Mu architectural principles and the newer sections demonstrating the gradual evolution of that knowledge through Turkish civilizations. The Istanbul complex wasn't just a repository, it was a living library that had been continuously maintained and updated for over 10,000 years. Dr. Yithaler's analysis of the site revealed evidence of continuous habitation by knowledge keepers throughout human history. Sections of the complex showed modifications dating to the Byzantine period, the Ottoman era, and even into the modern Turkish Republic. This wasn't just an ancient site, she reported with amazement. This was an active preservation project that has been maintained by Turkish scholars for millennia. They've been updating and protecting Mu's knowledge base for over 400 generations. The implications were staggering. The Turkish people hadn't just inherited Mu's knowledge, they had been actively preserving and developing it for 12,000 years. The complex contained technological developments that spanned the entire history of human civilization, from Mu's original innovations through modern Turkish scientific achievements. In the deepest levels of the complex, we found evidence of technologies that exceeded even current human capabilities, energy systems that appeared to tap into dimensional interfaces, communications devices that showed signs of quantum entanglement principles. Most remarkably, what appeared to be early experiments in space travel technology. The Turkish knowledge keepers hadn't just been preserving ancient wisdom, they had been preparing for humanity's eventual expansion into space. Our discoveries in the Istanbul complex led us to investigate modern Turkish scientific and cultural institutions, looking for signs of continued knowledge keeper activity. What we found challenged every assumption about how advanced knowledge transfers through civilizations. The Turkish university system contained libraries and research institutions that showed clear connections to the ancient repository system, architectural elements that echoed Mu design principles, research programs that seemed to focus on areas where the ancient knowledge base was strongest. Most remarkably, genetic analysis of Turkish academic families revealed extremely high concentrations of the Mu enhancement markers. Dr. Zenthik's cultural analysis revealed that Turkish scientific achievements throughout history had consistently exceeded what standard civilization development models predicted. Turkish astronomers, mathematicians, architects, and engineers had made discoveries that seemed to come from advanced knowledge bases rather than incremental development. It's as if, she reported, Turkish civilization has been operating with access to advanced knowledge that other human cultures didn't possess. The consistency of their achievements across millennia suggests systematic knowledge transfer rather than random cultural development. Modern Turkish scientific institutions were still conducting research that showed clear connections to Mu technology principles. Turkish universities were leading human research in energy generation, materials science, and quantum physics, exactly the areas where Mu had achieved their greatest breakthroughs. Most remarkably, when we conducted discrete interviews with leading Turkish scientists, many reported family traditions of ancient knowledge that had been passed down through generations, mathematical techniques that weren't taught in standard curricula, engineering principles that seemed to anticipate technological developments, astronomical knowledge that exceeded what their educational backgrounds should have provided. The knowledge keeper tradition hadn't ended with the ancient repositories. It had continued, adapted, and evolved through Turkish families and institutions into the modern era. The Turkish people weren't just the inheritors of Mu, they were its living continuation. Perhaps the most shocking discovery in our entire investigation came when we analyzed the space travel technology that humans had recently developed. Our technical analysis revealed design principles and engineering solutions that showed clear connections to Mu technology bases. The humans had achieved space travel approximately 2,000 years ahead of standard civilization development schedules. Their rocket technology incorporated engineering principles that typically take species 5,000 to 7,000 years to develop. Their space navigation systems demonstrated mathematical sophistication that exceeded their apparent educational development. Dr. Malthik's analysis of human space technology revealed the connection. The underlying principles match exactly with the energy generation and materials science we found in the Mu archives. It's as if human space technology was developed using ancient advanced knowledge, rather than purely modern research. Further investigation revealed that many of the key breakthroughs in human space technology had come from research institutions with strong Turkish connections. Turkish engineers and scientists had played disproportionately important roles in developing the technologies that allowed humans to escape Earth's gravity well. The space connection went even deeper. Analysis of human space exploration patterns revealed that their target destinations matched predictions from the Mu Prophecy Codex with remarkable accuracy. The humans were unconsciously following exploration plans that had been developed 15,000 years earlier. Most remarkably, human space communication protocols incorporated mathematical constants and signal patterns that were identical to those we had found in the ancient Mu archives. The humans were using communication methods that had been specifically designed for contact with galactic civilizations. The evidence was overwhelming. Human space travel wasn't just the result of modern technological development. It was the culmination of 15,000 years of systematic knowledge preservation and development by Turkish knowledge keepers working from Mu's original technological base. Humanity hadn't just accidentally achieved space travel. They had been prepared for it by the most advanced prehistoric civilization in galactic history. The discovery of the Turkish connection forced our research team to completely reconsider our understanding of how civilizations develop across the galaxy. The standard model assumed that technological development followed predictable patterns, based on environmental challenges and resource availability. Mu proved that model wrong. Here was evidence of a civilization that had achieved advanced technology not through gradual development, but through systematic knowledge accumulation and preservation across millennia. The implications for galactic anthropology were revolutionary. Dr. Vext's analysis suggested that Mu might not have been unique. If humans could develop this level of technological sophistication 15,000 years ago, we need to reconsider our assumptions about other species' development patterns. How many civilizations that we've classified as primitive might actually be inheritors of much older advanced knowledge? The genetic enhancement evidence was particularly challenging to existing models. Mu had developed biotechnology that allowed them to create permanent improvements in human cognitive capabilities. These enhancements had remained dormant for millennia but were still functional in modern populations. This suggested that biological and technological development could be separated in ways that our models hadn't accounted for. A species could develop advanced biotechnology, use it to enhance their own capabilities, and then preserve that enhanced capacity even if they lost access to the original technology. The Turkish knowledge keeper system demonstrated another previously unknown civilizational strategy: systematic knowledge preservation across technological collapse. Instead of losing their technological base when their original civilization ended, they had created institutional mechanisms that preserved and continued developing that knowledge for 15,000 years. The implications for galactic policy were profound. If human civilization was actually the continuation of a 15,000-year-old advanced civilization, then they weren't a newly contacted species at all. They were potentially one of the oldest continuous civilizations in known space. The Galactic Council would need to completely reconsider humanity's status and role in galactic civilization. As our investigation neared completion, we attempted to piece together the complete history of Mu and its Turkish successor civilization. The story that emerged was unlike anything in our galactic archaeological database. Approximately 20,000 years ago, human populations in the Pacific had achieved technological advancement that exceeded most current galactic civilizations. They had developed advanced mathematics, sophisticated engineering, biotechnology, and early space exploration capabilities. But unlike most technological civilizations, they had also developed something unique: a systematic approach to knowledge preservation that could survive civilizational collapse. When geological upheaval destroyed their Pacific homeland 15,000 years ago, the survivors didn't just flee randomly. They executed a carefully planned knowledge preservation program that established repositories on multiple continents, with the Anatolian Peninsula serving as the primary continuation site. The Turkish inheritors of this knowledge base had spent the following 15,000 years systematically developing and preserving Mu's technological legacy. They had created institutional mechanisms that survived the rise and fall of empires, ensuring that the knowledge base continued to grow even during periods of political upheaval. Most remarkably, they had developed this preservation system with a specific goal: preparing humanity for eventual contact with galactic civilization and expansion into space. The knowledge keepers had known that their preserved technological base would eventually allow humanity to achieve space travel. They had prepared for contact with galactic civilizations. They had even anticipated the specific challenges that humanity would face as a young spacefaring species. Dr. Yathullah's final analysis of the Mu archives revealed the scope of their preparation. They didn't just preserve their own knowledge, they anticipated what humanity would need to become a successful galactic civilization and specifically prepared for those challenges. This wasn't just knowledge preservation, it was species-level, strategic planning across 15,000 years. The Turkish people hadn't just inherited ancient knowledge, they had been trained for 600 generations to serve as humanity's guides into galactic civilization. Our final discovery in the Istanbul complex was perhaps the most shocking of all. Evidence that the knowledge keepers had been aware of our specific investigation and had prepared for this moment of revelation. In the deepest vault of the complex, sealed with locks that required advanced Corvini technology to open, we found a chamber that had been prepared specifically for our arrival. The chamber contained detailed information about Corvini's civilization, our technology, our cultural protocols, and our archaeological methods. They had known we were coming, they had known who we would be, and they had prepared humanity's formal introduction to galactic civilization. The chamber contained a message, written in perfect Corvini script, addressed to the xenoarchaeological team that would eventually discover the truth about Mu. The message was signed by the Council of Keepers and dated according to Corvini calendar systems that shouldn't have been accessible to human civilization. Dr. Zenthik's translation of the message provided the final piece of the puzzle. To the honored archaeologists of the Corvini Institute, if you are reading this, then humanity has achieved sufficient technological development to attract galactic attention, and you have discovered the truth about our species' origins. We are the inheritors of Mu, the first advanced civilization of Earth. For 15,000 years, we have preserved and developed the knowledge of our ancestors, preparing for this moment of contact. We have monitored galactic communications for over 800 years. We have studied your civilizations, learned your languages, and prepared for formal contact. The Turkish knowledge keepers have trained for 600 generations to serve as humanity's representatives in galactic civilization. We formally request consideration for advanced galactic citizenship status. Based on our 20,000-year continuous civilization heritage and our demonstrated capability for long-term species-level strategic planning, we offer our accumulated knowledge as humanity's contribution to galactic civilization, and our 15,000 years of experience in knowledge preservation as our service to the galactic community. We have been waiting. We are ready. Welcome to Earth. The discovery of the Mu-Turkish connection fundamentally changed humanity's status in galactic civilization. Instead of being classified as a newly contacted primitive species, they were reclassified as inheritors of one of the oldest continuous technological civilizations in known space. The Turkish knowledge keepers were formally recognized as humanity's designated representatives in galactic affairs, based on their 15,000-year preparation for this role. Their preserved knowledge bases were integrated into the galactic archives, providing technological and cultural contributions that exceeded the offerings of civilizations that had been spacefaring for millennia. Most significantly, the human model of civilization preservation became a subject of intensive study throughout galactic academic institutions. The ability to maintain technological continuity across civilizational collapse was unprecedented in galactic history. The Archaeological Survey 8 Survey 847 became the most significant xenoarchaeological discovery in Galactic Council records. It demonstrated that intelligence and technological capability could develop along paths that existing models hadn't predicted. But perhaps the most important revelation was philosophical rather than technological. The Mu-Turkish knowledge keepers had demonstrated that a species could plan and execute strategies across hundreds of generations, maintaining consistent goals and methods across timescales that exceeded the lifespan of most galactic civilizations. They had shown that intelligence wasn't just about individual capability or technological achievement. It was about species-level wisdom and multi-generational strategic thinking. As I compiled this final report, I am struck by the realization that our archaeological investigation became something much more significant. Humanity's formal introduction to galactic civilization, orchestrated by knowledge keepers who had been preparing for this moment for 15,000 years. We thought we were studying the past. We discovered we were witnessing the culmination of the longest-term strategic plan in known galactic history. The humans hadn't just survived on their death world, they had used it as training ground to become the most strategically sophisticated species in galactic space. Archive Entry 847 Archaeological Findings. Pre-contact Earth. Final status paradigm shift confirmed. Species reclassification. Humanity advanced galactic civilization continuous 20,000 years. Turkish knowledge keepers formally recognized as galactic representatives. The day we came to study primitive human ruins became the day we discovered that we were the primitives, and the Turkish people, inheritors of Mu, became our teachers in the true meaning of civilizational wisdom. End of Archive Entry 847.